7:02 p.m. Would everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chairman, Mr. Kendall.
Here.
Vice Chairman, Mr. Duran.
Here.
Supervisor, Mr. Brozett.
Here.
Solicitor, Ms. Moore. Here. And Secretary, Mrs. Rowell is here.
Okay, before we get into the public comment section, got a couple items I want to bring everybody up to date on. On April 10th of 2014, we had a meeting with Max Environmental. They came in to talk about their business in Smith Township, and that they were going to have some meetings coming up and some hearings, and that they will be in the paper, where you'll see. And that in a month or so, they're going to come to a regular board meeting. If anybody has any questions for them, you can ask. And this is over their proposal for a water treatment facility on their property in Smith Township. So we'll put on the website as soon as we know what meeting they're coming to, and if anybody has any questions for them, you can ask them. Following that, we had a executive session for about a half an hour or so, and we were looking over some resumes we received for road crew and manager, but we received several more since then, so have to wait and get an evening we can all talk about that and make a decision. So.
Okay, yes. We additionally just had another executive session related to the range resources litigation, in which the outside counsel who was hired by the insurance company came to update the non-conflicted supervisors. So Mr. Kendall was unable to be at that session, but the other two supervisors were at that session, and outside counsel updated him related to that litigation. And that just took place before this meeting.
All right, hopefully everybody can now see the board. Mr. Duran did change the room around. Hopefully everybody likes it. And gave a bigger board so there's more room to write. So if there's any questions or comments on agenda items only, please state your name, address, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes.
On old business you're talking about?
On the agenda items.
Well, have you given an update on the new ordinance yet?
That'll be in the meeting this evening, so.
How can we comment on it?
Well, it's just a formality.
But to the extent any vote would happen on anything, there would be an opportunity to make a comment if there's a particular motion made that maybe wasn't clear from the agenda items. There would be an ability to speak again. But if anyone has any general comments just on what's on the agenda, you're free to have it for that 3 minutes like that.
I'm just not sure. I
Need your
some comments.
need your name.
Cliff Croft, 1832 Becker Road. I'm just not sure if I should speak now or a public comment.
You can start, and if you're on the wrong track, I'll let you
Okay.
go.
All right. I've heard some stories over by my house. I live on Becker Road, and there's existing wells over there. Atlas drilled some wells on that property. There's a compressor building over there, and I get a lot of noise. I get a ton of noise.
Okay, well yeah, you are.
That'll be later?
That'll be later on. We'll make time to do it. No problem. Okay, any other comments on the agenda items only?
I have a question for solicitor. There's just,
Ms. York.
it's Sandra,
You can't ask directly to the solicitor.
You can direct it to the board, and if they want to request a response from me, they'll do so.
all right, thank you.
Agenda items only.
Sandra George, 714 Campbell Road. Concerning your session on, your executive session on 4/10/14, You were discussing the hiring of, and letters coming in for new positions and everything. And pardon me if I'm wrong, but was there any mention in the last meeting or a motion made that you would advertise in the paper? Because the advertisements came out on Sunday in the Observer Reporter, but I have not seen anything mentioned in a previous meeting or a motion made to give someone the authority to put those advertisements in the paper. Is that not the proper procedure?
That's a good question. Did we skip a step?
Well, you're...
We haven't hired anyone
You're looking
yet.
at personnel matters, you're allowed to do whatever steps are necessary and have your private discussions regarding personnel matters and then meet publicly to hire someone if and when that time is.
We have had no interviews, no hiring.
But to put an advertisement in the paper, they are permitted to do that
Yes.
without making a motion and during a board meeting?
Yeah, we can look at it further, but it sounds fine to me. You're doing your background research into personnel matters.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Andrew Zimmer, concerning your ordinances, new ordinances. What do you mean by the sentence that all oil and gas subsurface facilities and activities shall be exempt from the requirements of this section? Are you opening up the residential R2 districts to work by the gas companies? What are you going to allow them to do?
One, that's not a public document yet because there's been no motion to do anything with it.
Well, I found it.
Well, it's a legal copy then.
It might be. It was left on my doorstep.
I'm sure it was. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? All right, have you gentlemen had time to look over the minutes from the May 10th meeting? Yes. Any questions? Everybody good? Okay, we have a motion to vote to approve the minutes from the March 10th meeting.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the March 10th regular Board of Supervisors meeting. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Duran?
Yes.
Mr. Rosas?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. You gentlemen had time to look over the bills, the monthly bills?
Yes.
Is there any discussion or questions on the monthly bills?
Well, my discussion was I wanted a copy of the solicitor's bill to be able to hand out to, and it was legal to discuss with the public. I asked for it at the last meeting. I've only received it tonight, so I haven't had a chance to look it over and discuss with the people in the public that have asked me about it. So I'm going to have a hard time approving payment of all the bills if it includes a solicitor's report, since I've had no time to digest this or review it.
Was that in your, is that in here? Is that been in your basket with everything?
That was handed to me tonight, and I've been asking for it for 5 weeks now.
Well, the redacted version is handed to you tonight. The redacted version, there was a right-to-know request for the bills, and the redacted version was provided because there's attorney-client information in bills, and that's what you were provided with tonight. But everyone's had a copy of the bill, at least, from this side, since it was submitted. It's a full copy.
That's my comment. I'm not.
What do you want to do?
I don't want to pay the solicitor's bill until I've had a chance to take this and discuss it with the public, with the people I wanted to. If you gentlemen want to, that's fine, but I'm not going to vote. I will vote to approve all the bills minus the solicitor's bill until next month when I've had a chance to take this and do it.
It's a retracted copy work. You can make sense of it.
I can make sense of it, Stephen. The comment I made and making and said I wanted to be able to share this with people, and I obviously could not with the bill I had.
That's fine.
I was
Okay.
given this less than a minute.
That's fine.
That's my comment.
That's fine.
So I just want everybody to know, if you vote to approve all the bills, why I'm voting no.
That's fine.
Mr. Duran, do you have any comments on the monthly bills?
I do not this time.
Do we have a motion to pay the monthly bills? or does anybody want to make a different motion?
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay. Second motion? Roll call vote, Mr. Durant?
Yes.
Mr. Broses?
No.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Okay. Treasurer's report?
In the general fund, we have $43,153.35. Liquid fuels, $86,561.54. In the light fund, we have $2,068.13. Capital improvement fund, we have $395,614.97. Act 13 impact fees, we have $398,223.07. Total monies received during the month of March is $86,858.71.
Any questions or comments on the treasurer's report? Okay, I do have a point that we need to address. In the money we received back from Pennsylvania American Water, Ms. Roman had put the money that came out of the Act 13 impact fee back into that account, and the remainder of the money went into the capital improvement. The question I have is, the money that was originally pushed into the capital improvement fund, 105,000 of that came from what was called the legal fund. I think we need to research and determine whether that has to go back into that fund at some point, or what the situation is. If that were earmarked for that, the legal fund in particular, then we'll have to put that back to that. So, I'd like to make a motion or a statement to, for us to do the research and get a legal opinion as to $105,000. If it's okay to leave it in the capital improvement fund, or if it has to be put back into the legal fund. Any comment?
My comment would be, in the past board, we sought legal advice as to whether funds like that weren't earmarked could be combined or moved from place to place. So we were told, with what I believe was good legal advice, that you could do that. So I don't have a problem double checking if you don't have faith in that. But on the same note, I kind of have heartburn over the solicitor's bill. I would want some kind of amount that we were going to spend doing this, not just saying let's research it.
Well, how about if we do the research, we just get the information, these are all the notes that we found when it was created, what stated, where the money came from, and just ask for information on that.
I'm fine with that.
And if you could provide us with the background information as well as the previous opinion by the other solicitor, that would make our job really easy to give you guys an opinion.
Because I've read back through the minutes, and there's no discussions as to when the money just moved from one to the other. There was nothing in the minutes, no discussion at the meeting. So that's what raises the question. So, and we put that in the form of motion? Or, yeah, okay. All right, I move to have the board, including Ms. Rummel's assistance, to research as far back as the legal fund began, gather all documents, and then provide that information along with whatever statement there was from the prior solicitor to Ms. Moore, and ask for a legal opinion whether we need to reestablish a legal fund or if we are okay with what took place. So, and that's long-winded, but we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote on motion to investigate the legal fund process. Mr. Duran?
Yes.
Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion carries. Okay. The motion on the treasurer's report. Okay, back to that. All right. With that aside, are you gentlemen okay with the treasurer's report?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Also moved.
Do you have a second? Second. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Duran? Yes. Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Currently without a township manager, so we don't have a township manager's report or zoning officer. Mr. Chief Dorsey, what do you have for us on that since you're...
Got about 9 items.
Okay.
Issued a citation. Okay.
We'll get back to you.
Good.
Go. Yeah, got it. We'll get... Please go.
The citation was issued to Billy Marco, a company down in Florida that has a tremendous amount of property all over the country, but for a abandoned garage out on Robinson Highway with a bunch of debris and junk around it that the residents were complaining about. Approved a fence on Nobletown Road that they're in compliance with the zoning. We have a development on Spring Street with a house being redone. Going to be problematic. I can see folks from New Jersey bought it and they're fixing it up and possibly staying in it when they're fixing it up. So I'm dealing with that right now. On Spring Street, 1001, by the way. The old Brezhnev property. Citation is going to be issued to another residence on Spring Street for trash and debris. Issued a permit, a zoning permit for a residential garage on James Drive. This is a detached garage. Meets all the specs. Approved an addition on Meadow Street as addition to a residence, and also in addition to a garage on Nature's Way. That's actually an addition to the garage, so it's okay there. And pending is I've got two zoning permits for pool on Fieldcrest Drive and a roof over a deck on Canada Road. Okay.
Thank you. The pool is on Fieldcrest, right?
Fieldcrest. I make sure that they're in compliance with the zoning plus the property maintenance.
Let's get Bill, we'll get back to you on the Secretary's report.
The McDonald Police Department monthly incident list with a total of 47 calls for the month, 22 traffic citations, 1 non-traffic citation. I have the 2013 audit. This is from Range Resources regarding the Harmon Creek A unit. This is from Range Resources regarding the Kearney's unit. This is from BBE Shelfer. It's regarding Act 146768 and 127 notification from Range Resources. This is from Gateway Engineers. This is regarding Range Resources also intending to submit for Act 146768 127 notification. This is the same thing for the Allroots Raw site from Gateway Engineers. This is a resignation letter from Cindy Livingwood due to family obligation. She's completing her term as auditor. This is from Range Resources regarding the Kendall unit. And we have several resumes for the position for open at the township.
Thank you. I was gonna say, Mr. Mayor, you want to do the public works report? You want me to pass these out to him since you asked for the audit report, and I'll pass these on. All right, so there's only 25 copies, so one per family, please. This is the audit report that was given to us by the auditors March 21st, 2014. So if you guys want to read the findings, I think you'll find it very interesting. Public Works, up here at current events, we used 4 ton of coal patch to fix potholes in the north part of the township. Used 30 ton of stone to repair Raccoon Creek Road, which is in need of even more stone. As soon as we put it in, it got pushed right back out. Clearing all township roadways, banks of brush. If there's any areas in the township that you wish to see brushed further, just let us know. We're still ongoing with that right now. We advertised in township employment. On Schaefer Road, 20 tons of stone was used, as well as wormwork. If anybody is having excess runoff in the center roads, please let us know so we get out there and burn the roads. Replaced 28-foot of culvert pipe, including 15 ton of stone on Maple Grove Road after a cave-in, and 4 ton of coal patch was put out on Donaldson Road this morning. That's our report. Thank you. Okay, Planning Commission has anything to report? See a couple. Nothing?
Do you want me to comment on?
Yeah, if you want to comment on your meeting.
So the planning commission on Monday will be not open to the public. It'll be just us to get together to discuss something. There won't be any public at that meeting.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Chief Dorsey's acting as zoning officer in the interim. Is that, I heard you said you were doing zoning permits. Do we need to appoint him in the end? Because I remember Mr. Shuckrow saying at the last meeting we needed a zoning officer. I don't remember us ever doing anything. Does that need to be done for him to act as zoning officer?
He had been our zoning officer in the past.
Well, I guess we need to see, was this a temporary interim position?
Temporary to until we find the manager.
Mr. Shuckrow said we needed to address that and appoint.
Yeah, I think I
a zoning
actually
officer.
said that last time.
Yeah, maybe you did.
Right.
So
Yeah, you would have.
I wondered.
Yeah, because I didn't know if there was
If
anyone
we
in the
need
interim,
to
but I'll
appoint-
look it up for someone in an interim status as opposed to,
Because he kind of just defaulted to it. Not that I have a problem with you doing that, I just wanted to be sure. I just want to be sure. We don't have to appoint him.
Everybody else to one step back. We're still standing there, so, yeah, we need to.
schedule this as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not that I have a whole lot
Okay.
to report, but just a couple of items that have taken place since the last meeting. As we had been requested to do, we actually did our formal petition to withdraw from the active litigation that's been filed with the Commonwealth Court at this time. And my other update, which has already been updated, is that the township money has been returned from Pennsylvania American Water, so it's currently back in the bank accounts.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us to old business, which first item on that is we're still having term issues with the planning commission and zoning hearing board. Ms. Moore had provided us with a couple of options for which way we could go on that. Did you gentlemen have time to read through those?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Anybody have any comments or discussion on that motion?
I would certainly choose the staggered option instead of the one that basically has every term end at the end of December. I don't know if it was option A or B, but it was one of the first ones, the staggered, and that's what we need to do to fix it. I don't think the board should be completely, that every incumbent should be completely removed at the end of the year. That's the only option that I like.
Mr. Grant? I'll take the opposite approach. The board has not been appointed correctly for many years, dating back into the early 80s. I believe that we should get this put in correct, get this corrected, and final passing out these mistakes that should be. Okay.
Well, we still don't absolutely have to make a decision on that today, which is also an option. Although we do have one particular portion of that that is an issue, which was back in December, they had reappointed Connor Fox as a alternate, and he was still an active member on the board when they've done that. And I talked to him since then. I was at the reorg meeting for the zoning hearing board, and he had no idea that that had been done. He was actually coming to the reorg meeting for the zoning hearing board to turn in a termination letter at the end of his term. So he wasn't, entirely upset, but it was kind of a shady move that was taking place to force a vacancy, which creates a small issue because they did appoint Lou Dara to the board in December 30th of 2013. So as far as Mr. Dara would be concerned, his position would be legal, although it was done improperly, it never should have taken place. So there are some processes. Can you explain a little more in detail what the possibilities would be on that?
Sure, and if you ask us to look into this, we'll give you guys a recommendation. But basically, if someone's in a position and he or she is moved unbeknownst to him, and then someone is reappointed in that position, well, first of all, someone's moved and then someone's appointed in his position, that's only for the end of his or her existing term. You can't appoint someone for a new term if they're replacing an existing position. There's a secondary issue if someone is moved without knowledge of being moved. There's a question whether that new appointment is valid or not. And we can give you a recommendation as to how you would proceed with something like that. It would probably be under the removal procedures in which that person would request a hearing where all the facts can be laid out. But if you'd like us to give you a recommendation on what to do in this kind of scenario.
Possibly. Another option would be, if I know you're not in agreement with it in particular, but if we were to just let the board stand even with Luke in that position, so we don't get into a whole process until the end of the year in January, just start over. Would that be an option as well?
Well,
without getting into replacing Luke at this point and then causing a whole.
Sure. The other thing, we're kind of talking about two different things here. One is complete reorganization because the current configuration is not in compliance with the code because the terms aren't staggered as they're supposed to be, and it's just got to get out of whack somewhere. So at some point, you have to do something to fix it. And we were talking about them discussing and voting on some kind of reorganization. So as part of that reorganization, which we publicly discussed and voted on, that's one way to deal with it. Or this particular issue could be addressed, specifically.
Okay, is there any comment on the Mr. Dara position as far as to wait till the end of the year, or you do something today, or?
I don't have
No comment.
If we take, or you can make a motion.
Well,
Because you cannot create a vacancy with full vacancy.
yes, but I just don't want to remove the situation and then it turn into a drawn-out appointment. We just wait till the end of the year and decide. If that was option A or one, however you had to list it.
Again, yeah, it's two different things. I mean, there's a complete reorganization, then there's this particular issue that it sounds like there was an invalid appointment because of the way people were moved, but you could deal with that specifically or deal with the whole reorganization, and then that would be discussed publicly and voted on.
Well, this motion, I want to make a motion to table that, think if I got some more before I get my thoughts on it.
Fine.
All right, I make a motion to table the planning commission zoning hearing board issues until next month's meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Duran?
Yes.
Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes, motion's tabled. Okay, next item under old business is we have some form of update on the pending conversations of contract between PA American Water, which we had appointed Mr. Duran and Mr. Behrens to that. Since Mr. Behrens isn't here, I guess it falls on you.
Yes, we do have an update. We have new estimates that came in from PA American Water. Gretchen, I'd like to publicly state what the amounts are from the new proposed water lines. I'll have to give these
Are you
public.
planning on sharing? What are we even looking at?
These are the agreements that were sent over to us from PA American Water with the new estimates for the water lines. They went out and re-estimated the lines and gave us a new estimate on them. I don't know if I'm allowed to publicly say what the amounts are on that.
This, you haven't finalized this agreement.
No,
This is like a proposal from them?
It's a proposal to us.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the proposal, you're free to do so.
So, let's go with the amendment. Okay, so Nature Way, we broke the water line into two agreements. Nature's Way would be it's a little longer on this one than the last.
No.
It will be a 1,000-foot of 8-inch DICL water line extension, which comes to the total of $92,396,000. PA American Water's contribution, estimated 4 residents, would be, their contribution has went up since the new fiscal year. It was $10,500, now it is $12,397 per customer that would come into that, with their cost share of $49,589.96. Customer contribution is $42,806, which would be the township's contribution. On Amendment B, which would be the Steubenville Pike installation of 4,250 linear feet of 12-inch DICL water line on Steubenville Pike Road to Maple Grove Road, Exhibit A. So, you say 4,000 feet? It is 4,250 linear feet. 12-inch.
What's the power plastic?
That is, if you want to DICL, that is the pipe that is able to be plastic welded. You can see it on.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if it was ductile iron or
Plastic.
it'll last a long.
Total estimated cost for this line is $410,000, $150,000. PA American Water contribution at 9 estimated residents would be $12,000. Again, their per resident is $12,397. Times 9 is $111,577.41, with a township contribution of $298,572,000.59. So these are the two possible contracts that were sent over to us with the estimates. So far, with renegotiating these, we have now saved the township $450,000 so far, from the original cost of $775,000 that the township paid in a check up front. So
So, Mr. Duran, let me ask you this, since you're so desirous to say how much you're saving. Did we get a copy of that?
Yeah, sure. It was sent over to you.
No, it wasn't. It's not in my mail slot, and I didn't receive an email.
Here you go.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
That's sarcasm, that's fine.
Okay, Phil. Well, I'm going to make a motion to table that as well until Mr. Rose has time to set on. And I received a copy of it in the email, which I know was addressed there. So that's it. But we'll, okay, motion to table the water conversation until everybody has a better comment and opinion. Second?
Second that?
Mr. Duran, roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion tabled. Okay, next item is an update on the retaining wall situation at 362 North Street. And again, we have appointed Mr. Duran and Mr. Behrens to look into that. Do you have an update for us, sir?
I do. Speaking with the residents multiple times on their wall on their street, we reached out to National Gunite to have them come in and look at if they could actually shotcrete the wall in place. That being, they would sink in anchors, go ahead and put rebar meshing in, and then shotcreting the wall. If you guys are not familiar with it, it's liquid cement that they would spray on layers, and every layer you have will get thicker and thicker. And a lot of highways use this on high walls that are unable to be reinforced. It may be a very tangible option for us because the cost is significantly lower. We've had estimates come in at $200,000 to $800,000 to fix this wall. So this may be a very good option to us since it is, we do not have any very large budgets to absorb such a cost for that area.
When are they coming?
They said in the next week it will be out. It's called Gunite. It's shotcrete.
Does that still require the purchase of that slip of property, or you're saying no, that they could do?
Yeah, it would not require purchase.
Who's your dad? Your dad, Bobby? Does he work for BMI? No. Never mind.
Steve,
Yes.
are you still going to move the pole? You still need to move the pole,
We do.
that utility pole?
Well, not necessarily move it. I'm not going to cut you off, but the intent was to put another pole across the street and then put a guide wire over now to pull it back straight. If Westpac Power were to go by today, just wanted to do that. That would take that pressure off that wall. So, you guys remember my demonstration? Should have brought Legos.
Lincoln Laws.
Sorry about that. Go ahead. I'll look into that. Okay, want to make a motion to table any decisions till you get more information? Yes. I would like to table that until we have an estimate from National Gunite regarding that project. Is that a motion? I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote to table 362 until Mr. Green gets more information on possibly gunning the wall as opposed to purchasing property and tapering the bank. Mr. Duran, your vote?
Yes.
Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion is tabled. Conversation closed. Okay, next item is an update on the new ordinance and gunning, which at the last meeting we had, I gave copies to the solicitors, to the other two supervisors, and a couple days after that, I got them to the planning commission. There were some comments from the public having an issue with my myself and Mr. Duran, since his family is involved in the gas industry. So what I would like to do is to make a motion to have our solicitor start a process to ask the question to the Ethics Commission whether there is an issue with myself and Mr. Duran voting on that particular situation.
And I can just explain a little more. The State Ethics Commission has a procedure where you can actually write them, it's just simply writing a letter, it doesn't involve a lot, explaining a situation, and they'll give you an opinion as to how to proceed in that situation, so that when the time comes, if they say, okay, the vote has to happen like this, you'll do it in accordance to how they recommend doing it, and then you're going to avoid issues of, let's say, someone challenges it later, and you're going to be spending more time and money by doing it twice. At least this way up front, the State Ethics Commission will say, this is how it should be done, and then you do it in accordance with whatever they say. So the process is basically sending them a letter explaining the situation, and then they give you an opinion.
Okay, so I'm going to put that into the form of a motion to, I move to have the solicitor file the proper paperwork to the Ethics Commission to get the approval or denial as far as to myself and Mr. Duran. I'm assuming you don't have any comments to it.
I do.
Okay, just want to make sure. So,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay, that's fine. Again, give the approval or denial to have the ability to vote and process the ordinance amendment matter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Duran?
Yes.
Mr. Roses?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Okay, there's a second part to the ordinance update. I would also like to make a motion to have the solicitor begin the process of advertisement, hearing dates, meetings, letters to the residents that are required, whatever process would be necessary to run through Mr. Shuckrow to begin a process on the ordinances.
So this is a motion to move it forward and start the review period is what we're saying?
Yeah, you do want to set a hearing date, and then we can move back from there and, do everything in accordance with the time periods in advance of that. The State Ethics
yeah.
Commission opinion should, they say here 21 days or 14 days, depending on the type of opinion you want to get, so I don't think that should hold up the process so much, unless they're a little late, but.
It's a 30-day window of time the Washington County Planning Commission gets it. I mean, that's the minimum right now.
So this is moving it forward to the next step.
Correct, like, for example, you could set a hearing date, June or some point, and then all the advertisements and things will be done in advance of that hearing date. In addition to having this done and hopefully that. And I would certainly recommend if for some reason this opinion doesn't come back, I recommend changing that date. But
How about a tentative date of June 2nd? Would that give you enough window? That's the full month of May plus the remainder of April. And if we don't have an answer back from the ethics, then we won't be doing any voting.
we'll work on whatever you guys decide.
Okay, is the second work for everybody? Second, okay, it's mine for June 2nd.
My concern with this is that in reading this, I feel that it's a wholesale rezoning of the township, not really an amendment or amendments as it's been stated. So I felt like it should have been run through the planning commission. And one of my other concerns is, even if you disagree with that, is before I would vote to move forward, which is what you're explaining to me this is, to move forward and have a hearing, I would certainly make a motion, and you two gentlemen are welcome to deny it, but I would make a motion to make sure with the solicitor, to have the solicitor research that this desired amendment that you're putting in here, even though I don't consider it an amendment, I consider it a wholesale rezoning, is compatible with the Supreme Court decision on Act 13, because I see some concerns. So I can't vote to move it forward until those two processes are done to clear my mind with it. especially the solicitor review of whether this is compatible with Act 13, because the decision by the Supreme Court, I certainly wouldn't want to get into litigation with it afterwards. So those are my concerns.
You already, adding that research information on it.
Well, I'll say this caveat, this is an ever-changing area. I mean, obviously, you guys know from going to meetings at the PSATs, there may be nothing definitive that, everyone's kind of moving forward and doing what they want to do in their township. I can't guarantee there's not going to be a challenge or something in the future because this is a very fluid situation, but.
I'm not asking for a guarantee. I'm asking if our solicitor feels that the zoning amendment is compatible with what the Supreme Court has issued in their Act 13 ruling, what your best legal advice would be as well.
And the Act 13 ruling isn't complete yet. I mean, it's back in the Common Court for remand on some other issues, so.
Well, my concern's with the portions they've already found invalid at the Supreme Court level, not what's been remanded to the Commonwealth Court. That's what, and I'm going to put that in a motion. I move to do that, because if we're not going to do this as a board, I want the board to have to publicly vote no. So I make a motion to have our solicitor review this amendment with respect to the portions of Act 13 that the Supreme Court has found invalid already.
Second. That's fine. Did you catch all that? That's fine. Okay. That's all right. I just want to make sure you did, because I wasn't writing. Normally I write them. I didn't write that. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to. I'm trying to catch. Well, okay, go ahead.
Sorry. All right, so
Go.
what are we trying to do again? So Act 13, it's going to take years for this, I think a year or two for this to finally kind of play out through the court system. It's not going to happen for quite some time. So what exactly is Mark asking? He wants to make sure that it's compliant with Act 13?
Ask him.
I want to make sure that it's compliant with the pieces of Act 13 that have been invalidated by the Supreme Court.
Okay, so you mean the uniformity, you mean the township uniformity portion?
My specific concerns are that one of the things in it, for instance, is that oil and gas drilling is either a permitted or conditional use in pretty much every zoning district, with no reference to any kind of compatibility clause. My belief, and I'm not a lawyer, but that the Supreme Court has said the portions of Act 13 that allow that, they're not allowed. You can't allow it everywhere, basically, without some type of compatibility clause in there. So that's what I'm asking the solicitor to clarify for me, to make sure the pieces of Act 13 that have been invalidated don't conflict with this new zoning.
And there's this whole issue of, everyone being stewards of the environment, and, the constitutional amendment regarding the environment was raised really in the analysis, which isn't 100% clear. It's going to take some time to flesh out, but we can certainly,
I'm certainly not asking her, and Gretchen already mentioned it, that the pieces that have been remanded back to the Commonwealth Court could not have decided. I'm not asking her to make her best guess as to what the court will. I want to know if it lines up with the pieces that in stone the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has laid out.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, so we're going to briefly restate that motion.
Sorry, I just trying to get clarification.
Yeah, you said
Okay,
you
cut us off in the middle.
We've
All right.
kind of just described it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to ask the solicitor to verify that the amendment to the zoning ordinance matches up with the already decided portions of the Supreme Court's decision. Roll call vote. Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Rosens?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carried. Give me a second. Okay. Then the third part of that would be, I move to have our solicitor move forward with the process with a intended date, scheduled date for the first hearing to be on June 2nd, and to have